Hare Krishna. Today we are going to discuss the super brief excursion into the history of ISKCON. We'll observe only key but important points in it. So stay with me now, I'll try to do it as briefly as I can. So let us start. The history of ISKCON and how this topic can be connected with the external manifestation of the Paramatma. The theme of the external manifestation of the Paramatma is the beginning of the Guru Tattva. The theme of the Guru Tattva, or lack thereof, is closely related to the history of ISKCON after the departure of its founder, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prior to Prabhupada's departure to ISKCON, there was no problem with who was the outer manifestation of the Paramatma. This was Prabhupada himself. Prabhupada described everything in detail in his books. Who is a guru, what are his qualities, what level of qualification he should be, and so on, all this in his books. Prabhupada also explained in detail the problems that occurred in the Gaudiya Math after the departure of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And the problem is that unqualified disciples started appointing themselves as acharyas, not qualified for it. That is, the devotees who did not reach the level of Uttama began to act as gurus. In the latter days of my Guru Maharaja, he was very disgusted. Actually, he left this world earlier, otherwise he would have continued to live for more years. Still he requested his disciples to form a strong governing body for preaching the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He never recommended anyone to be Acharya of the Gaudiya Math, but Sridhara Maharaja is responsible for disobeying this order of Guru Maharaja. And he and others who are already dead unnecessarily thought there must be one Acharya. If Guru Maharaja could have seen someone who was qualified at that time to be Acharya, he would have mentioned, because on the night before he passed away he talked of so many things, but never mentioned an Acharya. His idea was Acharya was not to be nominated amongst the governing body. He said openly, you make a GBC and conduct the mission. So his idea was amongst the members of GBC who would come out successful, and self-effulgent Acharya would be automatically selected. So Sridhara Maharaja and his two associate gentlemen unauthorizedly selected one Acharya, and later it proved a failure. The result is now everyone is claiming to be Acharya even though they may be Kanishta Adhikari with no ability to preach. In some of the camps the Acharya is being changed 3 times a year. Therefore, we may not commit the same mistake in our ISKCON camp. That is, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's idea was that his disciples would form a governing body. The mission will be carried out, and among the most successful of his disciples, an Acharya or Acharyas will appear. And what actually happened in ISKCON? After Prabhupada's departure, the senior disciples of Prabhupada who acted before Prabhupada's departure as representatives, or the Ritviks, or to be more precise, the ritviks, they declared themselves acharyas after his departure, and in order to prove their position, they showed everyone Prabhupada's July 9th letter, in which they were appointed as ritviks, representatives of the acharya. This began a new era in ISKCON, after the departure of its leader, and at the time it all seemed quite logical. Prabhupada left and appointed 11 successors in his place, who must be gurus, that is 11 external manifestations of the Paramatma. Those devotees with little knowledge of philosophy immediately saw this as a deceit and deviation from Prabhupada's will, and many left the society. Others did not notice any inconsistency with Prabhupada's teachings and accepted everything as it was. At first everything went smoothly for maybe a year or two, and then the deviation of some of these 11 began, which became difficult to hide. ISKCON was hit by a series of upheavals. Someone was caught on drugs, another was buying weapons, a third declared himself the sole successor of Prabhupada, and so on. It became obvious to everyone that a mistake had been made. Moreover, Tamal Krishna Goswami made an important confession at a meeting of society leaders in Topanga Canyon in California in 1980, where he openly said that Prabhupada did not appoint any gurus but appointed 11 Ritviks representatives. He prayed to Krishna and Krishna answered him. He had the realization that they interpreted the Ritvik appointment as an appointment to become a guru, and that only a qualified person can become guru. Here is the meaning of his message in a nutshell. It became obvious to all the devotees that those 11 were not appointed gurus and did not have the qualification to do so. But everyone understood that there was a strong demand for leaders in the society. Someone had to lead the society, and there must be leaders of the society or guru. Therefore, the guru reform took place in ISKCON. The main criteria of the new system was that any devotee who passes the GBC test and receives permission can become a guru. This system proved to be more viable as it became possible to replace got out or deviated gurus. The old system did not allow this, and this system already corresponded to the way Prabhupada saw it. However, it should be understood that guru must be on the Uttama level, but Prabhupada also says that a non-liberated person can act as guru and even as an acharya. A person who is liberated acharya and guru cannot commit any mistake, but there are persons who are less qualified or not liberated, but still can act as guru or an acharya by strictly following the disciplic succession. But there are limitations here. He can be a guru for non-devotees and third-class devotees, and such a guru will not lead to the final goal of life. The second-class devotee accepts disciples from the section of third-class devotees or non-devotees. They cannot advance very well toward the ultimate goal of life under his insufficient guidance. Therefore, a disciple should be careful to accept an Uttama Adhikari as a spiritual master. Prabhupada's idea was the same as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's, so that disciples form a governing body or operate under this body, and those who achieved the greatest result in preaching, they are gurus. Thus, the new guru reform made it possible for Prabhupada's disciples to act as gurus, even if they did not reach the required qualifications. It was only necessary to obtain authorization from the GBC body, and in principle there is no deviation here, if we take into account that such gurus give only initial level. The Ritvik supporters disagreed with this. They believed that only an Uttama should be a guru, and since they cannot determine who an Uttama is, Prabhupada remains the only guru for all ISKCON forever and ever. That is, it turned out two opposite camps. Supporters of the living guru believed that the guru could be a non-liberated devotee from the Madhyama level, and he is also good as an Uttama if he strictly follows the parampara, although in reality, as we have already quoted, he is not as good as an Uttama, and he can only operate in limited ways by giving an entry level in devotional service. Actually, this is the key point, since it is this moment that is the beginning of big problems. My position is to expose opposite hanta, ritviks, etc. Of course, I don't want to arouse indignation in my address from the ISKCON leadership, but I can't help but say about it. Yes, you can of course accept an imperfect guru who teaches you the initial stages. Then as you grow spiritually, you accept Shiksha Guru, Uttama, and then the system works perfectly, according to the system of our parampara, where the Shiksha Guru plays a decisive role. But when an unqualified Guru begins to be respected at the level of Sakshat Hari and put faith in him, not understanding his true position, because such an imperfect Guru keeps his disciples at an elementary level, and he is not able to dispel all the doubts of his disciples and lead them to the far peaks of Krishna consciousness. Such a guru has anarthas in his heart, which causes various deviations and subsequent condemnation from the devotees and criticism from the Ritviks. Actually, this is the reason why the ranks of Ritviks are actively replenished, no matter how paradoxical it may sound. Therefore, the reason for the emergence of Ritviks is the misinterpretation of the Guru principle at the highest level of leadership of the organization from the very beginning, since the time of zonal acharyas. In general, this is the only mistake, although the key one, but it can be corrected by educating the devotees to a correct understanding of the Guru principle. For this, there are devotees and gurus in ISKCON who are able to do this. For Ritviks, the situation is more fatal, since the Ritviks believe that the Guru should be only Uttama, that is, only Prabhupada, because they did not want to learn and study the nuances of Prabhupada's philosophy, but preferred to do a clumsy work, grab the tops, not going inside the essence, and pull quotes out of context, thereby being in spiritual blindness and inability with knowledge to see serious Vaishnavas in ISKCON. In this way, they completely cut off the possibility of accepting sadhu sangha or association with sadhus. All their communication comes down to reading Prabhupada's books, in which they find only those quotes they support their Ritvik paradigm. In this way, they cut themselves off from the spiritual connection with the parampara, and instead appeal to some kind of love for Prabhupada and follow the external rituals, but not the essence of the teachings. That is, they engage in the practice of sahajiya, and this is already a gross deviation from the teaching of parampara. If ISKCON devotees can be mistaken in some details, such as considering a Madhyaman level guru as full-fledged guru who will lead you to Krishna, but they at least have the potential to accept a pure Vaishnava devotee as a Shiksha guru and thus return to Krishna, then the Ritviks completely cut off this possibility and remain only with Prabhupada's books, recordings and murti, and this can hardly be called the first stage of association with a pure devotee, since Ritviks greatly distort Prabhupada's teachings. I support ISKCON devotees, even if my opinion differs from their thesis. Not Uttama is as good as Uttama if he strictly follows the parampara, but of course it needs to be fixed. Stop stepping on this rake already. I believe that ISKCON is Prabhupada's organization. It has his blessings and the blessings of the parampara. With all his problems, one who wants to figure everything out can still find a full-fledged sadhu sangha there. Thank you for watching. Put likes, dislikes, subscribe to the channel, join the group in contact, leave comments under the video. By doing so, you help to promote the video. Hare Krishna.